The Deadly Premonitions 2 intro is an hour long, an hour of you not being able to do any gameplay. Sure, there are sequences where you are technically allowed to click on things, but it's just very linear and nothing changes. Any given 5 minutes of the intro would feel pretty good, but 12 of those back to back feels interminable and is just astonishingly terrible. I was astounded at how bad this intro really felt. The problem is that they're trying to set up everything before they give you any control at all. So before they give you anything more than the very most basic ability to click on something, they're going to let you know that there was a crime, there was another crime, there was a time frame, there's a framing device, there are 3 characters involved in the framing device, their characters are this, this, and this, their jobs are this, this, and this, their preferences are this, this, and this is their favorite food, this is their favorite philosopher, and I'm not joking. In addition to that, we have to learn a lot of foundational elements about Zack and the crime, such as Zack believes in fairies, Zack has multiple personality disorder, Zack hates the color red, Zack believes in sanctuaries, Zack is dying but trying to survive. And of course, we also have to learn about the crime. Did you know that these 85 facts all equate to this? Did you know that we believe that you might have been able to teleport outside of your little house even though you're dying and under constant surveillance? On top of that, they feel the need to remind us that this is a Deadly Premonition game, so they take everything that people said they liked about the first game and wedge it into the intro of the second game. Did you know that Zack has weird opinions? Did you know that Zack likes movies? Yeah, well, you're going to hear about it. A lot. None of the conversations make any sense, and the failure here is structural. For example, this starts with them reaching his door, and then they turn to each other and they say, all right, we're going to have a conversation. It's going to be a little bit rough because he's really good at conversations. And then they pull guns and try and do a breach and clear maneuver on his door to have a conversation with him. Why are you doing that? And then they interrupt themselves, stop their breach and clear maneuver, because Simon is wearing a red tie, and that might trigger the man. So Simon, who already knows that the guy is afraid of red because he's been spying on him for 4 years, takes off the red tie he wouldn't ever have been wearing in the first place, so they don't accidentally trigger the dying old man, and then they pull guns and get ready to barge in. This isn't surrealist. It's not structured in a surrealist way. It's not hyperrealism. It's not structured in a hyperrealistic way. It's just bad. There's no structure at all. The whole intro sequence smacks of first draft. It feels like nobody ever went back to try and polish it up, and tighten it up, make sure that it flows. In the end, we get this giant load of just everything that the player could possibly ever want. But the player isn't here yet. This is an intro. We haven't started playing the game, we're not in the right frame of mind. It feels like the devs decided the player should know these things and see these things, and they didn't bother to actually create any structure that used those things. A good example of that is that they clearly make Zack really dislike this chunky guy, Simon. Simon's job is to spy on Zack, and he did that for 4 some odd years, and he's pretty incompetent, and Zack really doesn't like him. That's clear. But it's never actually used to create any dynamism in the conversation. Whenever Simon starts to talk, he inevitably talks about pizza, and his job is to grind the conversation to a halt. Guess what? It doesn't need to be ground to a halt. It's already stopped. But it would have been pretty easy to use that dynamic to help drive Zack forward, make him say more interesting things. Simon's obliviousness followed up by Zack's open disdain could have opened a lot of doors and created some forward momentum in this conversation. But that wasn't something that they needed to show the player, so they didn't put it in. Sure, it would have made it actually work, but it's not one of the things on the checklist, so it didn't get in. I think that the core issue here is a tragic misunderstanding about the nature of player agency. You see, you're technically in control of your avatar for most of this sequence, but the only thing you're doing is choosing what to ask about. Most players are going to choose to ask about everything because the fear of missing out is pretty great. If you decide to not ask about the chessboard, you will never be able to ask about the chessboard. Ever. So yeah, you're going to ask about everything, and that's going to give you an hour of rambling. This is obviously not an ideal setup. The players do not really have any agency, and it is quite a slog to play. If you plan to play this game, I recommend that you skip as much of the conversation in this section as possible. Once the flashback starts, that's when things start to get good. You don't need to know anything before the flashback, it's all fluff. The flashback is where it gets good, and that's what we're going to talk about in the next video.